What's up, everybody? It's your favorite broken-handed surgeon's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the Doctor Strange Wave Part 1 of 3. This, the Build-A-Figure, and the other set of figures. So, let's not waste too much more time and just get into it. We'll start with Karl Mordo, I think is his name. You know, I'm not a big Marvel... I'm a Marvel fan, but I'm not a big enough Marvel fan where I know the more obscure characters. But if memory serves me, this isn't how he looks in the comics. He looks more like Ra's al Ghul in the comics, but this is how he looks in the movie. And I'm not even sure I put 2 and 2 together there, because I think they're supposed to be enemies in the comics, but it looks like they're getting along fine in the movies, but ultimately doesn't matter. Here is his staff, and it is single cast. Got some texture sculpting going on in there, but no paint. I think that, you know, it's definitely obviously trying. It comes with these two. I think that these are for Dormammu, though, so we're going to wait for those. I think that ultimately, you know, this is definitely trying to go for the movie aesthetic. So I think it nails it. And it's a lot of, you know, unique sculpt. So definitely worth talking about. Good face sculpt, I think. You know, it's got the paint that sort of their resources allow them to have, but within those confines, I think it's done fairly well. I think there's a lot of good sculpt in like the lips and the lines in the eyes, the hair. Looks good. On a ball hinge, limited up, so to there, down to there, and then the swivel is intact. It's got a ball peg abdomen, which I am not anti. I know people love their ab crunches. I just hate how ab crunches destroy a sculpt. So this doesn't really bother me. I'm kind of in for this. Good articulation either way. All the robes and stuff are sculpted. There's a ton of paint. I'm guessing it's the gray that's the actual plastic. So that means the dark green, the light green, and the bluish gray are all painted on. And tons of sculpt work to go with it. So nothing to complain about there. We got disc hinge shoulders, as we're used to. Because of the sculpt of the tunic, it kind of limits it a bit, but not hatefully so. You still get 90 degrees, and you get the swivel. Problems with characters like this is the cloth and the joints have to work, so there is a break in sculpt. That's just kind of how it has to happen with a Hasbro figure. Bicep swivel, that is what it is. We had this sculpt here around the base of the bicep, and that's done pretty well, and painted pretty well. So that's a plus. Double jointed elbow. You know, sculpt-wise, it kind of looks a little funky, but it's there. And then nice sculpting of the bandages, and then they're all washed with a green, which I think looks good. It wouldn't have been my choice, but I think it looks good ultimately. Wrist swivel and then hinge up and down, and because he comes with the staff, I think that's the perfect way to do it. Same for the other side. 2 holding hands, which normally irritates me, but because he can hold the staff with both hands, I'm in for that too. Now, this part, which is where our problems come in with this figure. Sculpt-wise and paint-wise, it's beautiful. This thing here is a floating piece. I think, yeah, it's a floating piece that sits on top of there, and then everything plugs in together. The sculpt is great, and it's a dark green, but the olive green, the brown, the gray, and the blue-gray are all painted. I'm getting a phone call real quick from Adam from Nerve Rage Radio. Let's see what's going on. Yo.
What up?
You're live on a Doctor Strange review, Marvel Legends.
Sweet.
Lucky.
I know, right? Now I gotta think of something witty to say. God.
Now I gotta beep that out. So everybody's helping everybody today.
Oh no, said a bad word. All right, I'll hit you back later, man. How's the Doctor Strange, man?
I think with the ones I'm looking at today, I think we're at 2 out of 4.
Okay, that ain't bad.
It ain't bad.
I mean, that's not meatloaf.
It's not meatloaf. Meatloaf.
You know, 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
Is where you want to be.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be meatloaf either.
All right, man. I'll hit you back.
All right, buddy. Later.
Later.
All right. So we'll get back to this. This is a dark green. You can see I've split it. That's for me trying to pose him. Because the articulation is limited, and as I move the leg up, it split this from there. It's relatively thin. It's pliable, but it's not pliable enough to really pull out poses. So, like, really, articulation-wise, it's on T-jointed ball joints, but they get you out to, well, there before you split it. And forward and back, really limited with this one. Less so with this one, but once again, it's split. So, not the best. Thigh swivel, sculpted pants, they look great. I hope they're able to reuse this for future releases because it's really well done. And then double jointed knee, once again limited by this robe thing, you know, softer goods might have been the way to go with this lower robe piece, just for the sake of articulation. There's some discrepancies, you know, among soft goods, and, you know, some changes of differences in opinion. I'm okay if it's done like in accents. If it was all soft goods, it doesn't really interest me. But, you know, I think that that's a situation where it could have worked. Anyway, no calf swivel, which does make me think that we may not see this again, but who knows. And then ankle tilt up a little bit. Still would like to see a bit more there, and back to there, and then ankle rocker built in. Now, the only problem I've had with this guy is getting him to stand in dynamic poses. Because of the tunic, it's hard to get him to balance, so that needs to be noted as well. Standing straight up and down, no problem. Anything else, problematic. Up next is Brother Voodoo. Now, we've seen this from the SDCC set. That has the Skullface, so you know I'm partial to that one, but I'll have to make do with this one. Maybe I'll do some custom work, who knows. Accessory-wise, he comes with this. It's like one of those broomstick bits, and it's got some little creepy fellas coming out of it. It's fine. It's a translucent plastic. It's painted black at the ends, and then the faces are actually dry brushed, so that is actually nice. I give them credit for that. As for him, he's got this cape, which, you know, I'm kind of hit or miss on plastic capes, but whatever. The sculpt of the hair, I think, is great. I like the sculpt of the face as well. The paint around the eyes is pretty good. The eyes themselves are painted extremely well. I do feel like some detail is lost, though, in his lips. And the eyebrows aren't painted, but I'm not sure they're supposed to be. I feel like it's just like, it looks fuzzy. It doesn't look like sharp, clean lines around the lips, but small potatoes in the big scheme of things. The hair looks good and is painted fairly well. The white gets outside a bit, but it's done fairly well. Ball hinge head, get you up to there, down to there. We got this floating piece here for the cape. Cool sculpt, and I like the holes in it and stuff, but it doesn't sit as well as some of their capes have been recently, so I'm a little bummed about that. Ball hinge shoulders, we've seen this 1,000 times. Up to there, around to there, that all works fine. I think the paint looks pretty good. Could have got into some of those crevices a bit more, but, you know, like that's a problem that this, you know, Hasbro faces over and over and over again with stuff like this. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, if I can show that there. The gauntlets are painted, and they're painted really well with a nice copper, and then the wrist is on a swivel and then hinge in and out. And guess what? One accessory, one holding hand, and opposing hand. I'm liking it. Ab crunch, down to there, back to there, so pretty much one click both ways. Waist swivel, and then you have this floating piece here to kind of hide the seam. This floating piece here is all from this sort of green plastic, and then this chain is sort of haphazardly slapped on. Actually, this might be... No, it is green plastic. This is sort of haphazardly painted black and then dry brushed haphazardly white. The dry brushing doesn't look bad. The black does. The dry brushing is kind of forgivable given the circumstances and the fact that it's like dirty, so it does kind of work. Once again, the white bones painted on the legs face the same sort of issues, but are overall fairly well done. T-jointed ball joints for hips get you out to there. Front and back to there. Thigh swivel on both. Double jointed knee. Calf swivel or shin swivel. And then ankle tilt. Good amount up. Good amount back. And ankle rocker. So he is fairly well done. All the nuts and bolts kind of work here. A few things I'd rather see done differently, but for the most part, he's fairly well done. The good doctor himself, Mr. Stephen Strange, with a very pronounced cape, but it's all good. I think we've seen this mold too. It doesn't matter. Head sculpt looks pretty good. Paint on there looks fairly well as well. The gray, once again, we have a hard time getting in some of those crevices. You know, it's just a reoccurring problem. The gold on the cape is fairly haphazard around the collar. Around the borders of the cape, it's done much better because they have a bit more of a defined guideline. It's on the inside of the collar, which is even more distracting because you're looking at the front of it, which is the back of this. So, do you understand? Do you understand what I'm saying there? I hope so. Accessory-wise, we come with 2 more of these things. Now, I co-signed these at first because I thought they were a cool idea, but they're starting to get played out. Especially with a character like Stephen Strange, who has a very unique look to his kind of power. It was kind of a missed opportunity not to include that look that was more specific to him. So we had the eye of right there, and that's done well, painted well as well. Ball hinged head gets you down to there, up to there. And then we have the same ball disc hinge shoulder that we're used to with the associated articulation, bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, swiveled wrist, hinge up and down. Same for the other side. I do like the hand poses. That's going to help you display them on your shelf, so that's cool. We have the ab crunch forward, pretty much 1 click forward, 1 click back, and the paint is done. It's sharp in some places, and then other places it kind of goes off the reservation. It's going to vary piece to piece, but like right there, in there, etc. The paint on the stripe on the chest continues through for the ab crunch, so that's nice. Soft floating piece of plastic here for the robe waist, which doesn't prevent the waist swivel. And then you can kind of move it up a bit and get your T-jointed ball joints out to here and back and forward to there. And this paint, once again, along the edges, it gets a little fuzzy from time to time. Double jointed knee, no problem there. Shin swivel, ankle tilt, forward, back. I feel like we've just looked at this, and ankle rocker. So he's okay, I guess. Nothing really exciting to report, but nothing really horrendous outside of the way that they finished the paint lines on the gold. I think what they probably should have done is use the border as the stopping point, because when they go around, they're trying to look for, like, I guess there was room. There was room to do it on the edges. They just slopped it up. So that's a bummer. Nico, which I was the most excited to get, she's a character from the Runaways, and I'm familiar with the Runaways and conceptually what they're about, but I've never actually read them. I just thought she was a cool looking character, and I was impressed with a couple things that I saw that ended up paying out for the most part. We'll talk about them. Accessory wise, gotta give some props. We have this thing. And you can add this little swirly magical thing around it. It's a magic power. Or you can just have the kind of scepter, and it doesn't really matter. I think I'm going to go with just the scepter. I might not go with any. But it's a pretty cool idea, at least conceptually, of how to pull that off. So I'm on board with that. And she has a swap out arm, which I think is really cool. We'll talk about this for a second. Just the part that's different, which is this translucent piece down here. For the forearm and the hand, it's on a swivel and hinges up and down. The black is painted on. The black is painted on there as well. And then swivels at the elbow and hinges. So articulation wise, it gets you to about 90 degrees. A little shy, but I think we'll give it to her. We'll see how easy it is to swap. Not the easiest. Well, that would have been easier. Let's see. I'm gonna destroy this. There we go. That was really in there. There's no doubt about it. Let's try. Cool. Good to go. Alrighty. So let's talk about her. I love the head sculpt. I think they did a really good job. I think it's interesting, it's different, it's unique, it's going to stand out. I like the hair sculpt as well. We got the purple headband that's sculpted on there and painted, and then all the hair is, of course, sculpted. Nice job. Eyeshadow, eyelashes, eyeliner, black lipstick, eyebrows, all looks good. Red eyes, black pupils, fantastic job. The head is actually on a ball hinge, which usually we don't see in a figure of this size. It's just a single ball peg. So articulation wise, messes up the sculpt a bit, but you can get all the way down to there, all the way up to there, which actually doesn't even look that bad. And then of course the swivel is intact. A single ball peg for the diaphragm joint, which I think gets you enough, and swivels. All the corset is sculpted and looks pretty good. The black on the straps gets outside the lines though, but outside of that it's fairly well done. We'll talk about this other arm instead. Disc hinge, get you up to there, so that's great all the way around, so no problems there. No bicep swivel as we discussed, but it's right above the elbow, and I think that'll do. Paint-wise, we have the black on there. It's pretty clean, and the lace is done beautifully. Well done. You see, this is the kind of improvements I've been talking about. If you would have said they were going to do this 2 years ago, I would have laughed you out of the room, and now they're doing it, and they're doing it fairly well. Nice work. Wrist swivel and hinge, one accessory, one holding hand, and I'm taking partial credit for that. Around the other side, we've already talked about it. We got this. Okay, you can come get it. We got a lot of disruptions here today. Soft piece of plastic here for the skirt, and the purple is, or purplish pink is painted around the bottom. Gets outside the lines here and there, but otherwise it's okay. It's on the love seat. It's on the love seat, sweetheart. Over here. The same one it's always been. Right there. On the couch, Selena. Come on. What are you doing? You see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I hope you're not going to be a detective when you grow up.
What?
I hope you're not going to be a detective.
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. Well, we're all in trouble.
Well, you're going to be in trouble.
I'm always in trouble.
Yes, you are.
T-jointed ball joints for hips. They get you out to there. Front and back to here, and this piece pops up to get you the extended range. No, just me. Thigh swivel, and then we have the black rings for the stockings, and they're done fairly well. Where they meet, you can see it always gets a little bit outside the lines, but I think overall it's pretty well done. Double jointed knee, paint on the knee joint, so that works well. And then for the boots, we have them all sculpted. The buckles are painted. I'm taking credit for that one too. And we have the feet hinge up for a tilt and tilt back. I'm taking credit for that, and a rocker. So I'm patting myself on the back all day today is what I'm saying. But the feet, the boots are also large enough, you know, just style wise, where she doesn't have a problem standing either, which is a nice touch. So all in all, definitely pick this one up. Final thoughts wise, Nico, I strongly recommend. Brother Voodoo, I recommend if you missed out on the SDCC version. And then the other two, you have to take a couple things into account. Are you getting the Build-A-Figure? If yes, well then you don't have a choice, do you? If no, I don't recommend either. I don't think any of them are breathtaking, the other two, and I don't think that any of them are ultimately worth it. If you have Brother Voodoo, the only one I would advise you to get here is Nico. She's definitely worth it. The thing for me is I missed out on the SDCC set, so I kind of have to get the whole thing in order to build Dormammu, and that's a whole separate story. Things I'm not liking here that I'm seeing are this strong use of these softer plastics that aren't exactly as pliable or as form-fitting as you would like. You know, that's the key, is that they kind of look natural but yet can move, and this wave so far does not pull that off. Some fuzzy paintwork around the edges of stuff, but we are getting more paint. Now it's just time to tighten it up. Some of the things I'm happy that we're seeing, paint that we would have never seen 2 years ago, like the lace on Nico, as well as her eye paint and kind of makeup in general. We would have never seen that 2 years ago. Lots of dry brushing around here too, such as on the skulls on Brother Voodoo, and on washes on Karl's forearms. So we are seeing paint detailing that we're not used to seeing. Articulation wise is pretty much standard as we've come to expect. Sculpt wise, it's still continuing to improve, as well as at least hold true to form. So nothing is really lost. We're seeing extra detail, like I mentioned with the paint, like with the paint on the buckles on Nico's boots. So we are seeing some more attention to detail. I think now what we really need to do is work on these kind of accessory, soft pieces of plastic for sculpt, and also try to work on the sharp line work within the paint. Those would be my two recommendations for this wave so far. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.